the new Beit Midrash. It is a great honor that Rabbi Weinberg, who is a scholar over here at Talmud Chacham, right here in Rechavia, in a couple of the kollels, giving many shiurim in the area. And I am deeply appreciative to Rabbi Weinberg that he has agreed to come and to teach us a fascinating subject of the davening according to the Baal Shem Tov. As we may know, that the whole subject of focusing on the davening is one of the innovations of the derech of Chassidut. And the Baal Shem Tov is the founder of Chassidut. So to learn about the davening from the prism, from the lenses of the Baal Shem Tov is something which is extremely unique. And Rabbi Weinberg has given out the text. It's a Hebrew text, but if the Hebrew is difficult, anyways, Rabbi Weinberg will translate it to English so we can all follow along. Enjoy the ride as we cruise through the Baal Shem Tov's infinite Torah. Bakasha. Toda rabba.
Shalom Aleichem to everyone. Today, Levi, he got from the internet, he got this text and he made copies for everybody. In the past, all the shurim that I gave to people who were learning this, they all went out to the Svarim stores and bought this. It's a very reasonable price set. It's 50-60 shekel. It can come in 1 or 2 volumes. I have the old edition. It was in 2 volumes. Some people got it in one volume. You will need it because this text that you have today here only has the text of the Baal Shem Tov itself, but the commentary on the bottom, which we use very, very often, is not on the internet. So you will have to buy the set if you want to really get into what we're learning and get the maximum benefit from it. You will need the set.
Rabbi Weinberg,
Yes.
excuse me, perhaps I have 2 questions. First of all, what do you think about us bringing for this coming week? We'll bring a number of sets, and if anybody wants to buy it, they'll have the option. That's number 1.
Fine.
Okay, and number 2, is there also the Baal Shem Tov al Torah in English?
I don't know it.
Okay, so we'll try to look into that hopefully over the next day or 2. And one of the scenarios is that we can do the Hebrew original text, and we'll learn out of that. And it could be a win-win. Yeshikach.
Okay, let me just give you a couple of words of introduction.
This has the pen behind it. The pen. Thank you.
A few words of introduction. I started going to shul when I was 2 years old. So I've been around in shuls for quite a while. And I started yeshiva at, I think I was 4 years old in the United States. And I've been in yeshiva for my entire life.
Where in the United States?
In New York. I lived in Crown Heights.
Wow.
Okay.
I
saw the Lubavitch Rebbe thousands of times.
Wow.
Crown Heights.
Yes. Excuse me?
Crown Heights.
I lived in Crown Heights, yes. I grew
What
up
you
in
did when you were that young?
I started yeshiva in Crown Heights. That's where I lived. There was a yeshiva in the neighborhood. It wasn't a Chabad yeshiva.
I see.
But Chabad was in the neighborhood, and I visited Chabad quite often. I used to, for praying, and I used to, okay. I used to see the Rabbi Rebbe walking in the street. I would say good Shabbos to him, he'd say good Shabbos to me.
Wow. Nice.
Any case, so I've been around in yeshiva my entire life, and I had all kinds of rebbeim and minahalim and rosh yeshivas and everything. And I would say I got smicha and from my rosh yeshiva, and I came to Eretz Yisrael, and I've been here approximately 50 years in Eretz Yisrael. I came in 1971. And I thought that I knew what learning Torah is and what davening is. After being in the system for so many years, you're living it, so you think you know what it is, basically. I had these svarim here, Baal Shem Tov on the Torah in my house, maybe 20, 30 years. I opened it up once in a while to see maybe a Dvar Torah in the Parsha, so on and so forth. But I was never aware that in Parshas Noach, he went into a whole section of tefillah. took a whole section and he designated that for tefillah. I never looked at that. And a few years ago, I decided to pick it up and look at it. And after looking at it, I'm saying to myself, well, this is something, I never experienced this. This is something very, very new to me. And I was already a grandfather at that time when I started doing this. And I say to myself, wow, this is something. And I started learning it. I couldn't put it down. And then I realized that I've been fooling myself all my life. That I thought that I knew what tefillah is. And when I got through learning this, I said to myself, I did not know what tefillah is. It was just a big, a dream or misconception, a misconception of what tefillah is. And I said, it's a pity. All my friends, all the Rabbanim that I had, I don't think they know what tefillah is either. Based on what I learned from the Baal Shem Tov. So I'm giving shiurim in Shari Chesed for many, many years. And I'm giving them shiurim in other inyanim. And I said to them, this is what happened to me, this experience. So they said immediately, we also want to have that experience. So we started a few years ago, going through the Baal Shem Tov. I've given over 200 shiurim on this alone. And everybody is very, very appreciative, and it changed many of their lives. It changed my life. And when Rabbi Yisrael asked me what I would like to give shiurim, and I say, this is something that has to get out there. And when is it going to get out there? I don't know. Here's an opportunity to let it get out into the tzibur. So you will be one of those opportunities to spread it further.
Amazing.
Right?
That's right.
Right? You'll be one of those opportunities. I hope that you're going to appreciate it, and we'll go through it, and it'll be as meaningful as it is to me. It will be to you as well.
Amen.
But you will need the text. You will need the text. Yes.
Could you turn the book over so we can see what it looks like?
Turn it over.
Wow, Shem Tov.
Yeah, but there are
Holding it up, I can see what it looks
Yeah, there are different formats. There are newer formats. This is the old one. I bought it years ago. There are new ones. The other people that I taught brought newer ones. Of course, some people get it in 2 volumes, some get in 1 volume. But it's about 50, 60 shekels. It's not anything major. But it's available in most of the Svarim stores. Okay. So that is a basic introduction to what we're going to do and what to expect. A little bit further, Shem Tov goes into a lot of concepts which are also Kabbalistic. And you must understand those concepts in order to appreciate what he's saying. And Be'ezrat Hashem, I will explain them. They're not something, because you hear the word Kabbalah, I think it's someplace where you can't at all reach that area. There are many things in the Kabbalah and Chassidus which are very, very close to us. You just have to have the right way to the keys to understand it, but they're understandable. So, any questions, by the way, before we start? No? One thing I would like to know would help. It would help. Can everybody, if you don't mind, just give me a 2-minute picture of the background that you have, so I can get an idea of when we're learning how to explain things, how much detail to put into it, and how much. Sure. Can you give me a?
Sure, I'm Mordecai Meltz. As a profession, I worked in the television industry for about 40 years. I came out of a very secular Jewish family, so I had no formal Jewish teaching or background until just a couple of years ago.
Okay. Go ahead.
My name is Chanach, and I've been made Aliyah. I've been in Israel about 8 years, and I study on Chabad.org, Tanya every morning, Baal Tshuva, and I'm very fortunate to be here with Rabbi Goldberg and to be with Chabad.
Okay.
Thank you for your
All right.
My name is Gershon Wachtel. I'm a pianist.
Pianist.
World renowned, yes.
And I can understand what you said, because I've been playing for 60 years. And I'm just beginning to understand what music is. I'm not kidding you. And there was actually very famous French artist, Renoir, one of them. He was 70 years old now. It's a shame, this late in life, I'm just learning what art is. What can I say? I've been involved in Chabad for the past almost 50 years.
All right.
My name is Shem Tov. Retired, living in Yerushalayim, living in Eretz Yisrael almost 40 years. Have a yeshiva background and trying out some new venues.
Okay.
Amazing.
Very good.
I'm Gabriel Shapiro. Been in Baal Tshuva for 40 years. I've been associated with Chabad on and off, and mostly on for most of those years, especially for about 5 years before I made Aliyah, and then most of the last 8 years here at Rechavia, though I live well outside the city. And one of the ways I can understand what you're saying is, one of my hobbies is I grow a certain kind of plant, which you can see in the front of the shul. And one of the things I discovered very recently is that the plants constantly need rejuvenation. If you leave them, they look sick. They constantly need to be replanted, redone, trimmed, have new growth, have new plants, new brothers and sisters. So that's one way it helps me to understand what you're saying here.
Okay.
Amazing. Rabbi Weinberg,
Yeah.
if I can perhaps summarize from all the presentations of all of our friends over here, is that the backgrounds are a very big variety of different backgrounds. But I think we all want to balance a number of things. Number one, we want to have more depth, more of a yeshiva type of depth than usual. And also, I think it's important to translate the Hebrew terminologies so that we should all be able to understand as one. Should be able to understand.
Yes, of course.
So in other words, a balance of.
We'll be translating everything to English.
Excellent.
Yes, everything in English.
Excellent.
All right.
Yeshar Koach.
Okay, so you all have this page here that was given out. Everybody
Some
has
of
it.
us, yeah.
Anybody, someone doesn't have it.
Because some of us, it's hard to follow the Hebrew.
I don't have the Hebrew.
So it's,
You want to take it? Take
no, no,
it.
it's hard to follow the Hebrew.
You can't follow it.
It's okay. That's why.
It won't help me, Rabbi.
Can you read it?
No, it's okay.
No?
It's not gonna. So this way the English. I'm going to try to find also the Shem Tov Torah in English. I think we'll try to find.
So, all right. So let's take a look. I'm going to use my text. You have the printed text in front of you. Let's start. Okay. So the instructions of Shem to Noach was how to build the ark, how to build the teva, and one of the things he told him was Sohar. First words, Sohar tasa la teva. You should make it Sohar for the teva, for the ark. What is it Sohar? So there's two possibilities that are known. Sohar means either a window, because they have this ark that they have to prevent water from getting into it, so they shouldn't get drowned out, or so you have to have a window. So one of the perushim is Sohar is a window, a skylight. Let's call it a skylight. Okay. The other one was a kind of a element that gave off light, something that gives off light. Sohar tasa la teva. So Noach had to have inside the ark. You had to have light inside. They didn't have things like windows. We have the glass panes. So you build an ark that has to prevent water from getting in. So then it's got to be built solidly all the way through with no openings. No openings. And it was very, very large, right? Because all the animals had to be in there, and they were going to be there for quite some time. So it had to be insulated very well. But how are they going to see inside? You have to have some form of light. So either this window gave light, or there was some kind of object in there that gave off light and enabled them to live inside the teva. So take the word now, teva. Teva, we know it means ark. Teva means ark. It also means a box. Teva also can mean a box. But teva also means in Hebrew a word. You've heard the expression Roshei Tevot? Which means the heads of words. A teva also means a word. So if a teva can mean a word, so we have now a new meaning to this instruction, Tzohar Ta'aseh LaTeva. Tzohar means make some kind of illumination to the ark. But it also could mean make illumination to the word. Illuminate the word. Make the word light up. Tzohar Ta'aseh LaTeva. When you are davening, you are instructed to make the word a light, to enlighten the word, give light into the word. And we can do that. Then it goes on, it says how far it should be up. Okay, these are instructions about the details of where it should be, so on and so forth. Okay. Rabbi, now we go on in the text that you have. Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, Olav Shalom. Omar, he said the following: Tzohar Ta'aseh LaTeva. You have to make an illumination to the word. Shetiyeh HaTeva she'adam midaber b'Torah u'b'tefillah. He has another point. The word that you utter in davening or in learning, not necessarily davening. Learning also, learning Torah. It's the same word. The same word. A word in davening is a word of Lashon Kodesh. That Lashon Kodesh exists in Torah as well. He wants you to enlighten the word. Give light into the word. Look at the text inside. Shetiyah hateva she'adam medaber b'Torah u'b'tefillah matzhir. You have to make the word a light. Enlighten the word. Now listen to this, what he says. Ki yesh b'kol os, in every letter of the Torah, olamot, nishamot, ve'elokut. This needs explanation. Every letter of the Lashon HaKodesh has three levels. It has three levels. It's Olamut, Nishamot, Ve'elokut. Olamut is the physical letter itself. Nishamot are what we put into it. And through us, there is Elokut. So we have here a system of what? That Hashem comes to us, we become a channel. What he gives into us goes to us and comes out of us and goes into the word. So how do you give light into a word? By willing that what Hashem put into you, that energy that he put into you, you become a channel for it to go into the word. Olamut is the worldliness of the word. The Elokut is where it's coming, and the Nishmut is the Neshama which we put into it. That applies to each letter. Each letter has these three levels. It has the physical letter itself, the Olamut, the word Olam, from the world. It has Elokut, it has godliness in it, and it has Nishmut, Nishamut. That is what our Neshamas put into the word. V'olim umitkashrim umityachadim ze im ze. All those letters, they rise up and they become unified with each other. Imelokut v'achar kach mityachadim umitkashrim yachad ha'otiot v'nasa teva. Each letter that we energize goes up and it becomes a word. So we're talking about on a very, very basic level. We're talking about each individual letter. We don't even realize, we just talk and take things for granted. But when we talk, we have to realize we have in us what HaKadosh Baruch Hu put into Adam HaRishon. So it came from Hashem. Put it into Adam HaRishon, the ability to speak. So humankind inherited that. Humanity inherited the ability to speak. What is that inherited to speak? As it says in the Targum Onkelos, in the first pasuk, Vayipach be'apov nishmas chayim. Hashem blew into his nostrils, so to speak, nishmas chayim. There's some kind of a spiritual force that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put into Adam, and that is this koach that we give out when we speak. We give out from that koach which is in us, we can give to others. We can give to something else besides us. And what are we giving it to? We're giving it to the letters that we pronounce. We pronounce a letter, we're putting the elokut that is inside us into it, into the olamut, into the physical letter. That's what we're doing. Once we do that, each letter that we utter joins with the other letters and they form a word. And once we do that, we have been Mekayim, we have accomplished by Tzohar Tasel Teva. We have illuminated the word. By illuminating the letters join, they become a word, and you have now illuminated the word. The word is now alive. Until then, it's dead. Now let me ask you a question. You never heard of any of this. Assume. You never heard of anything I just told you. All the people in the world who never learned Baal Shem Tov, all the Litvish yeshivas, the Sephardi yeshivas, any yeshiva, they never heard of this. Are they illuminating the words? When they say the words, are they illuminating the letters? Only we who learn the Baal Shem Tov are doing that?
I would ask the other way.
Yeah.
Are all the people who are learning Baal Shem Tov illuminating the words necessarily? It may not be automatic, as maybe a kavanah.
Well, I would say to you, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But at least they know. But they know now that they have the ability to do it. I'll give you another example. We eat. Everybody eats. In order to stay alive, you have to eat. The Arizal says, a famous pasuk in Parshas Ekev, Lo ahalechem levado yichyeh ha'adam. A man does not live by bread alone. You think you eat bread and you live, you eat meat and you live. No. That's not what keeps you alive. What's the proof? Why does it keep you alive? Because what keeps a person alive? What's the answer? The true answer. If anybody asked you, any doctor would ask you, why are you alive? Why are you able to live? What would you answer?
Receive energy from something.
So what is it that's keeping you alive? Tell me, what's keeping you alive? The
I'm
doctor's
supposed
asking
to
you.
live. I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to live.
What technically keeps you alive? What is it?
A heartbeat, breathing.
No, that's what keeps the heartbeat beating.
Well, nourishment and
Energy.
Hashem.
A well-engineered kli.
You should answer, the neshama is what keeps the body alive. You can put all the food you want into the body. If the neshama is not there, nothing's going to happen. Correct?
Right.
You have to have the neshama to keep the body alive. Right? That's the life force. Correct? That's what keeps the body alive. So I ask you a question now. When you eat, when you drink, so the body is able to take the food and dissected, and the waste of the food is excreted, and the nutrition of the body that the body needs is taken out of the, by some miracle system. The body knows how to do it by itself. You don't have to tell the body what to do. The body knows how to extract the nutrients and push out the waste. Correct? Fine. So the liver gets what it needs, your brain gets what it needs, your kidneys get what it needs, the blood vessels get what they need, all from the food. But there's some problem here, a very big problem. What powers the neshama? The neshama is what keeps the body alive. What does the neshama have to do with food? It's from another world altogether. It's a spiritual entity. How does it get food and its sustenance from the food?
Spiritual food.
What kind of spiritual food? Where? Where's the spiritual food? Huh?
Learning.
No, we're talking about not learning. We're talking about actual physical food. Bread, meat, etched vegetables, fruit. Food.
Brachas on the food.
Huh?
Elevating the food by making brachas first.
Yeah, but you have to answer me the question. How does the neshama get its sustenance? If the neshama is what really keeps the body alive, and I'm eating, right? I'm eating. So I can understand the physical food that I eat gets dissected, decomposed inside the body, and the body takes what it needs, and it throws out the waste. Fine. So that all's for the body. But what about the neshama?
The neshama needs a physical and spiritual connection to Hashem to pull the life force that Hashem gives the neshama.
Wonderful. But you have to answer my question. From food goes to the body. Physical food to physical body. So that it's being replenished all the time. The body is getting new energy from the food. Correct? What is energizing the neshama? Why does the neshama stay? What's energizing the neshama? Of course. But in the food, I'm talking about the food. And you know, if you don't eat, you don't drink, eventually you will die.
Right.
Eventually you will die. Right. That's right. But why should the neshama be affected by the food? I can understand the body doesn't function, but the neshama is what gives the life. How is the neshama affected by the food, if it is affected by the food? That's what we have to answer. The answer is what the Arizal said, based on the pasuk. Lo al alechem levado. Man does not live by bread alone. What keeps man alive? What gives you life? So he says, Ki al kol motzi pi Hashem. In other words, Hashem has arranged it in such a way that everything physical, food as well, has also a neshama. The food has a neshama to it. The food has a neshama. It has a spiritual side to it, which you don't know about it, you don't see it. But this food has a neshama to it. It's got a spiritual force inside it. If it didn't have the spiritual side in it, the food would decompose. It wouldn't hold together. There's a spirit, just like our neshamas keep our body alive. The neshama of the food keeps the food alive. Otherwise, the food wouldn't be able to hold together. It wouldn't have the color that it has. It wouldn't have the taste that it has. It's because the neshama gives it that combination, so it has that particular outcome. So the answer is now very good. The guf, the body, gets its sustenance from the physical food, from the nutrients, right? The proteins, the minerals, the vitamins, that's what goes to the body. The neshama gets the spiritual side of the food. That feeds the neshama. So now we have a complete picture. The physical side goes to the physical body, the food, and the spiritual part of the neshama goes to the neshama of the guf. Says the Arizal, when a person, like you just mentioned, makes a bracha, you energize that spiritual side of the food, You energize it, and it gives your neshama a big boost. Wonderful. That's what the pasuk says. Lo al lechem levado yechia adam. A person doesn't live by bread alone. Ki al kol motzi pi Hashem yechia adam. But Hashem, when Hashem comes out of Hashem's mouth, so to speak, is the spiritual side. That's what is, in addition, giving the life force. The physical side for the physical, and the spiritual side for the spiritual. Inside the physical food that we eat, there's also a neshama that comes from what we call Pi Hashem. Now let me ask you a question. How many people in the world make brachas?
How many people what?
In the world make a bracha before they eat? How many people? I ask you another question. This is a terrible question to ask. How many religious people make brachas before they eat? Did you ever see how people make brachas? Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people making brachas, and you can hardly hear the words. Hardly hear the words. That kind of a bracha is going to energize.
So are you're inferring then that without a bracha and also closing prayer, that we're missing out on the neshama part of the food?
Well, you're on the same track, on the right track. But the Arizal says when you make a bracha, you energize the spiritual side of the food, and therefore you get a big boost to your neshama.
Yeah.
But I ask you, how many people make brachas? Most of the world doesn't make brachas. Most of the Jewish people are assimilated. What do they know about brachas? They make brachas, but they're still alive. They're still alive.
Right.
People are living, right?
Right.
Yeah, so based on what you're saying, but we have to energize the bracha that we're saying on the food by bringing the light that we have to illuminate the word in the brachas, to bring life to the bracha, to be able to energize the spiritual energy in the food that we're eating.
Right. Correct. Very good. You got to the conclusion before I got to it. But we have to answer this question. What about the people who don't make brachas? Most of the Jewish people do not make brachas. They don't even know they're Jewish.
They're living on credit.
They're assimilated. They're intermarried.
They're living on credit. Borrowed time. Waiting till they do
so how does the neshama get its sustenance?
Borrowed time.
If no bracha is being made.
They're borrowing against the future when they make tshuva.
But you got to answer me.
That's the answer.
How does the neshama get its sustenance if no bracha is being made? The answer
Borrowed time.
No. The answer is the following. Hashem created the world. He knew very well that there's going to be people who don't make brachas in the world.
Yeah.
Correct? But Hashem did not create the world so it should just fizzle out and die. He wanted the world to continue.
Right.
What about all the goyim in the world who eat? Correct?
Right.
How do they stay alive? The answer is very simple. Whether you make a bracha or you don't make a bracha, your body is going to take out the nutrients from the physical food. And your neshama is going to extract the spiritual side of the food. Even without a bracha. But if you do make a bracha, you're going to get an additional portion. You get a booster. You're going to get a higher quality and a higher quantity of that neshama in the food. You're going to arouse that neshama to be very, very active. And that's going to go into you, and your neshama is going to be elevated. It's going to be energized because you made a bracha. You'll just get a minimum energy if you don't make a bracha. But if you do make a bracha properly with the right kavanah, then you're going to get the maximum energy. Then you're going to get really, and you're going to be a different person. You take two people sitting at the same table. For years, they're friends. One makes a bracha, one doesn't make a bracha. It's like night and day. They think that the two people are the same. They're not the same at all. This one's making a bracha his whole life. This one's not making a bracha his whole life. They are two different worlds. They're not the same at all. They may look the same. They talk and they're friendly with each other. But his neshama is all the way up there. His is way down. In many, many ways, it can affect their lives. Being on a higher level because they make the brachas. Okay. So that is what we're saying here also with davening. We asked the original question, what about all the people who don't learn the Baal Shem Tov? They don't know about illuminating the words. All the yeshivas in the world who don't learn the Baal Shem Tov, do they illuminate the words? Of course they do. But not to the same level that we can do it once we want to do it and we're conscious of it. We really illuminate the letters and the words, but they just minimally illuminate them. That's the difference. That's the difference. And that's what happened to me. All my life I'm davening. All my life I'm davening. Since I'm 3-4 years old, since I can read, I'm opening the siddur. And some kind of illumination comes because that's the way the process works. But once I opened the Baal Shem Tov and I learned about it, now I can consciously do it. And it's a greater quality of davening. There's no comparison. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. I'm not the same person I was. Since I started learning the Baal Shem Tov and using it, there's no comparison. And I'm hoping that Bezrat Hashem, you people will also get to that level. You'll feel that you're not the same people anymore either. Even at this age, it's never too late. I didn't start as a youngster either. I also started when I was a grandfather already. But I'm not the same person. I'm thank God for every single day. Every single day. It's a new life. It's a new life. And it's well known that, in people in life, you have certain plateaus. And as you get older, all of a sudden you reach a different plateau and you start to function on a much higher level, qualitatively. Even though your body is getting older, but your mind, your neshama, is maturing more than it was. There are certain things you can understand as a man of 70 years old, which you could not understand when you're 25 or 30 years old. It just doesn't click. Doesn't click. But when you're 70 years old, it makes a lot of sense. It's right. You can feel it. You know it. When you're 25 years old, it doesn't talk to you at all. It doesn't talk to you at all. So, Baruch Hashem, we're all together here. We're going to get to that level and we're going to be different people. We're going to be qualitative, high people, illumination. Okay. Yeah.
Was there a particular experience that you had that indicated to you that you're at a different level, something that happened that you could explain for us?
It's a feeling that you have. You just know it. You know it. You don't have to have anything to happen. You feel differently. You feel differently. You'll know. You'll feel about yourself. You feel differently. You don't have to have anything special to happen. Yeah. Go ahead.
Since there are all the time technical developments that we have to live with. Whatever we do, we have to write someplace, everything with computer and telephone. We're getting older, we're losing touch with all those technical advancements because it's the youngsters who run the world now, so to say. What are the possibilities of connecting Zaken V'Taf together to be able to exchange or to get help from youngsters to help us with our lives? We cannot move, sometimes we get stuck because we have to look for something on computer or to write something and we don't know the program, we don't know anything. And how do we manage?
Those are all very, I would say, practical, physical things. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, I would say, emotional and rational maturity. That's what we're talking about. And that's what really counts. Not the technical advancements of the computer world, the high tech. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about rational and emotional maturity.
Right.
That is what really counts. When a person goes up to the next world, you don't take your computer with you. You don't take the jet age with you. You don't take all that. What you go up to the next world with is the concepts that you developed. The concepts that you developed. That's what you go up with. Your mental state, what you take with you. And that's what you're going to live with up there. So that's what you really have to work on. And that's what we're working on here now.
I know, but then again, the practicalities are necessary for us. b'chol yom v'yom.
Okay, so I don't know everything. I use the computer also. My son knows the computer much better than me. And I have a problem, I call my son.
So
to
you have
you know.
your son. I don't have my son around me.
No, it doesn't matter. But the point is, so what? That's not important. Not important. I can live. If it's not my son, to get somebody else to call. Doesn't matter. So I don't know. I don't want to spend the time to learn it. I have more important things.
Me either.
That's it, sir.
I think the important part is that we still have the resources and the books available to us. And all the computers do is compile that to make it quicker and faster and easier to access. But the books are still here that we can learn from. And we still have teachers like Rabbi Weinberg that's able to sit down and help guide us through what the books are teaching us.
Hopefully. Bezat Hashem. Bezat Hashem. So that's the main thing. I didn't get your name, excuse me?
Emmanuel.
Emmanuel. Emmanuel.
Hashem.
You're close to God. So that's the main thing we have to be concerned with what's going on up here, not the practical advancements,
With that I'm fine.
Yeah.
With that I'm fine.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. That's what you take with you. You don't take the computer with you. It's not going to go up there. All the money you have in the bank won't go up either. What you have up here, that's what goes up. Okay. Okay, now look at, we're up to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth line. Fifth line here on the page. Third word. V'tzarech adam lichlol nishmason b'kol bechina ubechina me'anizka. A person has to have his neshama into the three levels that we spoke about. What are the three levels? That every word has a physical, every letter has a physical side to it. It has a particular shape and a form, and every word, every letter has a neshama, which is coming from us into the word. And what's in that neshama? The elokus. Inside the neshama is the godliness. The Hashem is inside our neshamas, and we breathe it, and we into the letters. We breathe it into the letters. V'az misyachadim kol ha'olamos ke'echad. Then all of these things go up to Shemayim, and everything becomes united. V'olim v'nases simcha v'tainu gadol at ein shir. When that is accomplished, it makes a tremendous, tremendous, blissful state and simcha in Shemayim. V'zehu tachtiyim shniyim shlishim. He's using the instructions in the teva. Hashem told Moshe to Noach, tachtiyim, make a ground floor, shniyim a second floor, shlishim a third floor. Three levels in the ark, three levels in the word. Just like the ark had three levels, the letter has three levels that we just spoke about. The lowest level is the physical letter itself. The second letter is the neshamos, and the third level is the elokus, the godliness in the word. Just like in the teva, in the ark, there were three levels, three stories, three floors. There were also three levels in every letter.
Were the people on top of the ark at the upper level, Noah and his family?
That's where they lived. Yeah,
That's where they lived.
That's
yeah.
where they lived.
That
yeah.
makes sense.
They lived. Of course, and on the two-level levels, you had one level for garbage,
Right,
and the other level was for the animals,
right, right.
and the third level was for people to live with, right?
Not just garbage, but also food that they had to feed them.
I don't know where they stored the food. I don't know where that was stored. Probably it wasn't stored with the garbage, I'm sure, on the bottom.
No.
Yeah, but the whole thing was, one tremendous miracle.
Right.
How did all those animals? How could they live that way for a year, right, without going out, and the food doesn't spoil? What kept them alive? It was all a big nest. It was a big nest. The whole thing was a big nest.
Yeah.
Okay. Now look at the next line. You see where it says there in the parentheses Zohar, Pasha Shlach. You see that?
Zohar Parsha Shlach.
Now here's a very important point that he makes about Shem Tov. V'tzarech lishmoa b'kol teva masha omer. You know that? It's very important to listen and to hear every word that you say. There is no such thing as mumbling words, mumbling letter. There is no such thing. If you cannot hear the word that you're saying, go back and say it again. You have to hear every word. You have to hear every word.
How does he get this from the instructions to Noah?
He's telling you, he's basing this on the Zohar. Now he brings in the Zohar.
Okay.
Why is it important to hear every word, every letter? Because he says the Shekhinah is the Olam Hadibur. Now I have to explain this, a new concept. We have a new concept. This is a Kabbalistic concept that he brings from the Zohar, and he's using it to tell you why he said that what he just said, that you have to hear the word. If I asked you, what does the Shekhinah mean? What would you say Shekhinah is? What would you say Shekhinah is?
It's the aura, the spirit of Hashem.
What would you say? You're in yeshiva your whole life. What is Shekhinah? God is Baruch Hu. That's what the standard answer is. Shekhinah is God. Shekhinah is God. Let me tell you something. Rabbi Shem Tov in the Zohar has revealed to us, and the Arizal has explained it to us very, very clearly. We cannot describe God. He's indescribable. What we can say, but God is not. He's not anything human. Any adjective that we can possibly use cannot describe God. It's something which is indescribable. It's infinity. It's something that is forever, Haya, Hova, V'yeh, past, present, future. No connection to time, above time. It's something which is indescribable. Now, from going to that, from that level, something which is infinite and indescribable, coming to this world, which is finite. This world is finite, it is not forever. Anything physical which has dimensions will have to come to an end at some time.
Okay.
Only something which is spiritual can be forever. Something which is physical cannot be forever. That's like a person has 120 years, and after 120 years, he expires. Something which is physical, something which is solid, in time also will disseminate, will fall apart, and it will just disintegrate. In time, anything which is solid, anything which is dimensional, will become non-existent in time. So how do you go from something which is infinite, Hashem, to this finite world? There's such a tremendous gap. How do they come together? How does God come to such a world when he's so far away from it? In concept, in existence, it's not possible for God to be here. How can God be here?
That's our job, to elevate this world.
You can elevate it as much. You can try.
Obviously, we can never reach that level.
Not anywhere near it.
We're trying to create, so to speak, a suitable environment.
So what God did, says the Arizal, what God did, he made a system. He made a system. You cannot go from something which is infinite to something finite just like that. You just turn the page and here I am. Doesn't work. What God did was he created a system where he reveals himself in various stages. The highest stages of revelation are not accessible to us either, but they're there. And they are still not the essence of God. There's some kind of a revelation at the various highest levels, which are not accessible to us, but they're there. And then you go down a little bit further, and it's more let's call it more accessible, but still very inaccessible, until you get down to the, let's call it the 10th level. The 10th level is what we call the Shekhinah. That's the highest amount of revelation God is willing to allow of himself to be exposed. So it is God, as you said, but it is a certain level of God which is possible to access by trying to access it. When you stand Shmona Esrei, you think you're talking to God. Well, yes and no. Because we said, you cannot access God. He's so far away. He's so infinite. We cannot access God. We cannot address him. What he will allow you to do is access his lowest form, or the greatest degree of revelation, which you call the Shekhinah. So when you're standing in Shemona Esrei, you're standing in front of the Shekhinah. That's who you're standing on. Not God's direct essence himself. That's that's inaccessible. Inaccessible. You're standing in front of the Shekhinah. Now, what is the Shekhinah? How can we explain the Shekhinah? Very difficult to explain the Shekhinah. But I'll tell you this. We won't explain it fully now because I don't think at this point that we're ready for that truth. But the Shekhinah is, for the time being, the lowest level of revelation, which is condensed inside the words of people. The words of people, people Edor, have the Shekhinah in them. So the Baal Shem Tov we just read inside in the text, he says you have to hear the words that you say, Shehashchina olam hadibur midaberes. Do you hear that? The Shekhinah, which is in the level of speech, is what is speaking. It's not you who are speaking, it's the Shekhinah which is speaking. And you have to hear what the Shekhinah is saying. You cannot let the Shekhinah speak and disregard the Shekhinah. You cannot do that. When the Shekhinah speaks, you have to listen. When God speaks, you have to listen. So every word that we say is a revelation of the Shekhinah coming out into the air. And that you have to hear. You have to give that Shekhinah its respect and its due. You have to hear the word. Very important. Very important. It affects your entire davening. You cannot daven at a pace where you're mumbling words and you don't even hear the words that you're saying. And many people, you know, I've seen people davening in shul. They open up the siddur, and you look at the people. I do this because I'm into this whole area of tefillah. But normally it's not a good idea to watch other people. Watch yourself better. Don't look at other people. Don't look at other people. But I do it because I study this concept of tefillah. And I see people with a siddur, turning the pages, reading the words with their eyes, but they're not saying a word. They're not davening. They're not davening. Tefillah must be bepeh. It must be bepeh. And we get so used to using books and magazines and newspapers, we just read. We don't have to say the words. So when you have another book in front of you, a holy book, you do the same thing. Unfortunately, habit transfers over. You open up the siddur and you read the words like you're reading a book, but you're not davening. Tefillah requires dibur, because that dibur is a form of the Shekhinah. And the Baal Shem Tov therefore says you must hear the words that you say. Very important. Very important. It helps you to say the words slowly and clearly and not mumble, so on and so forth. You want to say something?
I just want to...
It's over time already, yeah.
Baruch Hashem, we'd like to start on time, but to finish on time. I appreciate tremendously Rabbi Weinberg has come and given us our first share. And Bezrat Hashem, we look forward to being able to learn together for many happy years and healthy years, Bezrat Hashem. And don't forget to say a bracha achrona and after bracha. And if anybody can help, please, I'd really appreciate this. This will help us hopefully be able to do this on a regular basis. The more help we have to put away the chairs and the food upstairs in the fridge, that would be awesome. And big yashikach, toda rabba.
Okay.
Mamash, and the midin. Toda rabba.
B'Shem Hashem, na'aseh v'natzliach.